Hi, I'm Jordan Standridge, and I work in the marketing department at Charlesbridge Publishing. This is a case study. A case study is a new video series where we chat with Kidlit creators about the Kidlit in their bookcase. Our guest today is Traci Sorell, author of the Cybert, Orbis Pictus, Boston Globe Hornbook Honor Book, We Are Grateful, Ojali Hiliga, and as well as At the Mountain's Base, and the co-author of Indian No More. Her new book is We Are Still Here, Native American Truths Everyone Should Know. Thank you for joining us, Traci.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, let's kick it off. So what was your favorite children's book as a kid? And what was your favorite children's book as an adult?
I didn't have a favorite as a child because I love to read fiction and nonfiction. I love variety then, and I definitely love it now. But a very popular early read aloud in our house was The Monster at the End of This Book by John Stone. And we would just beg my mom to read this to us multiple times. So that, I would say, was a fun one until I could pick up and read books on my own. And then once I could read books on my own, I loved all of the Judy Blume and Beverly Cleary books. So I've got a pile there. Those are my, of course, my original books from childhood. I still have all of those. As an adult, this is, for me, a wonderful mentor text, but it is just a complete story. And it is Garvey's Choice by Nikki Grimes. This is less than 5,000 words, middle grade, told completely in Tonka poems. And like I say, if you haven't read this, check it out. In less than 100, a little over 100 pages, she's got a complete story here. So I aspire to be able to write something this tightly. It's just fantastic.
Is there a particular book that you have had for quite a while in your collection?
It wasn't Scholastic back then. There were two companies that came to our school, Troll Books, which was later bought by Scholastic, and then another one called Xerox Education Publications. And they had, like I said, they did weekly reader. We filled out a U.S. presidential ballot, and they collected our votes, all those kind of fun things. And one of the books that I picked out was called Grandpa's Ghost Stories. And that is by James Flora. So this is a story of a young boy who is frightened by a storm. And he's over at his grandpa's house, and he's scared. And his grandpa's like, "Oh, I can tell you about, we're safer in here than we are outside." And his grandpa goes on to tell him this fantastical story about, being out in the woods and kind of all these things that happened to him in the storm during this severe thunderstorm. And so they were creepy and silly stories. I absolutely love this. And one of the things that my sister loves about this book when she sees it is I went through this stage where I would add names to my name because I was not, just happy with what my parents had named me. So I was like, I'll just add some names in. So this book is evidence of that. It was, this book is from 1978 and I was 6 then. So I've added my name in here. If you can see that. It says Traci Lee Lucy McClellan. So I had an extra middle name, Lucy. And so we always get a kick out of that book. But I absolutely would spend, at least an hour poring over the flyer and picking all the books that I wanted to buy. But I can't stand horror films or scary movies. It's not my thing. And I don't even really read those books. But I do like a good scary story. And I always loved slumber parties and sitting around the campfire when people would tell scary stories. And there's a lot of scary stories that Cherokee people have. So we come by it honestly, for sure.
So another question I had for you was if I was a customer and you were a bookseller, what would be your go-to hand sell?
That one's easy. Going Down Home with Daddy by Kelly Starling Lyons and Daniel Mentor. And I love a good family story. I love a good multi-generational story. And this one is about a large family gathering that happens. They're all meeting at the dad's mom's house. And so everyone's going to be doing lots of different, reunion activities. But one of them is everyone is going to make some kind of contribution. There's something they're going to share. Maybe it's a song, maybe it's a poem, whatever. And the youngest member of the family, Alan, which was my late uncle's name, he just has this trepidation about what he's going to share. And I think all of us can relate to that, regardless of age. Is I'm going to be with all these people I love, and we're going to be doing all these things, but then how am I going to, make my contribution to the group? And so I absolutely love it. I love the illustrations in it. The artwork is just fantastic, and the way he's woven so much detail into the pictures. Oh, yeah, there's just so many different symbols that are hidden in it, and the use of color. Oh my gosh. So definitely going down home with Daddy.
So do you have any rare or unusual copies in your collection?
Not rare or unusual, but again, they're meaningful to me and to our family. So my mom and dad did not have opulent childhoods. They grew up in working class families, but we do have I do have books from their childhood. So my dad only has one book, and so I have that book. And my mom had a series of little golden books that she actually shared with us. And so my dad's sole childhood book is Roy Rogers' Surprise for Donnie. My dad's name is Don. So this was when he was 4 years old. This book came out. And then my mom had, like I say, I don't know, about 6 or 7 little golden books that she had from when she was a kid. And this one came out when she was about 3, Smokey the Bear. And so I love this because it tells us how Smokey got his name, and goes and, after this forest fire, he's rescued and he ends up living in the National Zoo. So those are, like I say, fun things that, hopefully I've shared with my son, and hopefully he can share with, he has a family someday, or nieces and nephews that he can share with them.
Another question that I have for you is, for what book have you happily waited in line for to get a signed, personalized copy, meet the author?
This has happened to me several times because I am, relatively new in this business, right? I mean, it's not even been 3 years since We Are Grateful, Ojali Haliga came out. And so by the time I started going to events, like, there was everyone I wanted to get books signed by. But I was at ALA Midwinter in 2019, and Monique Grace Smith, who's written many books that I love, was going to be there too. And so we happened to have signings, that overlapped each other. And so we both had to be at opposite ends of the center. And so I had talked to her marketing staff. I was like, could you please put a book aside and have her sign it for me? I was like, I really want to meet her. And I had, emailed and texted her, and I was like, could we please, if it's possible, I want to meet you in person. And so they held the book for her, and she waited after her signing, because mine was ran a little bit longer. I was over at the Charles Ridge booth. So then I raced over to her booth and met her, and we just got to sit and visit for a little bit. And it was wonderful. So not only did I don't have the copy of the book, Tilly and the Crazy Eights, that she signed for me. My mom has it. My mom lives next door, but just getting to sit and visit with her, that was wonderful. And we've become dear friends since then. And we just actually, chatted again yesterday. So those types of things are one of the things that I love about being an author, is getting to visit with other creators and just talk to them about how much I love their work.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then this next segment is for you to give a shout out to your favorite indie bookstore, library, a place that you frequent, support, discovered some of these books and your incredible collection behind you. Um, I am jealous. I would love to actually like look at everything that you have. But is there any place that you would like to shine a light on today?
I could not, I couldn't have really fostered my love of reading without my school library and my public library growing up. And that's really the same today. When I started writing for young people, I lived in Kansas City. I hadn't moved back to the Cherokee Nation yet. And so the Olathe Public Library, Johnson County Public Library, and Johnson County's in the Kansas City metro area. And then the Kansas City Public Library. I had 3 very robust library systems that just had any book and every book you wanted. And if they didn't have it, you just requested it and they bought it, So any book I needed for research, I always try to keep up with what's coming out and, look at them, see what is new in the marketplace across a variety of age groups and formats, fiction and nonfiction. So I'm grateful to them. But now I live in the Cherokee Nation, and so the Tulsa City County Library keeps me supplied with books. And like I say, this year we had to unenroll our son from the school district and homeschool him, and they have been amazing in terms of keeping us supplied with books for him to have across a variety of topics, again, fiction and nonfiction. For indie bookstores, wow, whatever city I'm in, I'm checking them out, and I can't say enough about indie bookstores. I love them, and I also really appreciate the creation of bookshop.org that helps funnel money to local indies. So, I'm in a rural area. I don't, Tulsa's 45 to 50-minute drive for me. So there's not a independent bookstore in my town. And so I tell people, I'm like, even if you don't have one nearby, they'll ship to you. You can order stuff on bookshop.org. But yeah, my hope is that, as we get moving around again, I'll get to start going and visiting many indie bookstores. And I'm excited with this launch of We Are Still Here to be able to do events virtually at bookstores that I probably wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, just because of the travel involved. And that's simply not feasible to be all over the country, but it is. You can do it in a virtual format. So I'm grateful to the indie bookstores who are willing to do that.
And speaking of which, can you talk to us about We Are Still Here?
Yeah. We Are Still Here is my latest book with Renee Lessig. We've teamed up again. Our first book, was really for that younger, kind of more traditional age set of picture books, age 4 and up. And this one is for the middle grade crowd. It's 7 and up. It looks at, whereas We Are Grateful, Ojali Haliga focused on one particular tribe and one value. So Cherokee Nation, our value of gratitude and contemporary life and how that's manifested across 4 seasons. We Are Still Here looks at across the country of the United States, what have Native nations experienced since the end of treaty making in 1871? And why is that a significant date? Well, at that point, that is when we tend to disappear from the curriculum and pop culture. You don't see us a lot in TV or film. Westerns are during this time frame, et cetera. And it's like, well, everyone's on the reservation, and so we don't know what happened to them, but we just kind of take them out of the picture. And yet Native nations have continued to exist. They have used their agency to go to Washington, D.C. and ask that laws be passed that help them exercise their sovereignty and control over their resources. They've also been in DC protesting laws that were passed or enacted under executive orders or in court cases. And so I wanted to show that to kids, that it's like all these time periods, things are happening from 1871 to the present. Even if you're not taught about it, that doesn't matter. You need to know about these things, even if it's not in the curriculum. And what I'm grateful for, again, in teaming up with Frenae, is that she once again has come up with this incredible art that makes all that information very accessible. I've tried to focus on, from the text part, keeping that similar to We Are Grateful, with kind of an opening line and then substanzas, and there's a repeating refrain of We Are Still Here. I wrote that from the perspective of Native nations. And when we were visiting about how to frame it, though, in terms of art, she came up with, we were talking about it, it's like, well, what if we set this, again, it's a nonfiction book. Who's actually learning this stuff? Is no one learning this stuff? Well, yeah, there are young people that are learning this. And they're generally going to be at tribal schools that have created their own curriculum, or they're going to be at chartered schools that have a predominant Native student body and faculty. And so the way it's been set up is everyone is getting ready to do presentations at Indigenous Peoples Day at their school. And we're at the Native Nations Community School. And there are, like I say, Native chartered schools in Oklahoma City, in Albuquerque. There's a new one going to be coming up in Rapid City. The way we framed it is all these kids are doing presentations. And so on the whiteboard there is the name of the topic that I showcase, and then a student's name. And so for like the opening spread, it says assimilation, way known as presentation. So there's my text, and then you see like kids in Carlisle boarding school. That's what Frenae based that on. And then the closing refrain over here. And it goes on like that to the present. Let me see here. So here's a more modern context. Students are in a classroom where they're learning their tribal language again, which was forbidden in the boarding schools. I'm super duper excited to share this with, like I say, young people. But what I also know is that nothing like this exists for young people, or even for adults, that kind of lays this out in a very accessible way. And so my hope is that folks will be able to take the book, and there's a very detailed timeline in the back that if they want to know even more specific information than what's presented in the text, that will help them access that information with a lot of different dates for different acts and things. But really, let's combat like what we don't know. There's no reason for us not to have this information as people that live in the United States, regardless of what background we come from. The information is there. If I hadn't been a first-generation college graduate, I probably would not have known all of this information. I was a Native American Studies major because I knew what had happened to my tribe, and I knew that history, but I didn't know that there was a larger system in place, that laws that were being passed were impacting tribes across the nation equally, and also what the activism was on the side of Native nations in terms of maintaining their sovereignty over their lands and their citizens and others who were coming onto their lands. So it's been a delight to create this book. And like I say, I can't wait to, share it with the world. I know Frenae is equally excited. And so it's just a dream come true. When Karen Boss, who's my editor at Charles Bridge, asked what book she wanted to do, she wanted to do another book with us, and what did I want to write about? I said, I know exactly what I want to write about. And that is this book, because there isn't anything that is an entry point for younger people to start to understand this. And there are books written for teens and beyond, but nothing for, like I say, those in upper elementary. So, yeah, I mean, it's, and that, when I talk to young people, I say, bookmaking is a team sport. And so there's a lot of people that go into making this book. And before I ever give it to an editor. I've had other people look at it and they've gone over it. And then once the editor gets it, there's many more people that look at it. And so my hope is that, while no book is perfect, that we've done a pretty good job of, again, making an entry point for young people and those around them to start to understand what is a part of all of our collective history and contemporary reality. But we just haven't been talking about it in a way that, to me, is important and necessary to do so.
That is all for this edition of A Case Study. Thank you, Traci, so much for joining us and talking about We Are Still Here, as well as sharing some of the books in your incredible bookcase. I would one day love to, check more of these awesome books out that you have behind you. And thank you, Hannah, for working the tech behind the scenes. And thank you for viewers that are tuning in. Very much appreciated. And until next time, thank you.
Mado, thank you for having me.